everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland Retrospective here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network. And this is my weekly show where my guests and I each pick a film related in some shape or form. And hopefully by the end of this episode, you'll have two movies to go check out. And joining me, as always, each month is my buddy Jeff. Jeff, thank you so much for coming on.
Of course, anytime.
And we're going to be talking about a double dose of Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu films, which he won Best Director for, both of them Birdman or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, along with The Revenant. But let's get started with Birdman. A washed-up superhero actor attempts to revive his fading career by writing, directing, and starring in a Broadway production. But Jeff, what are your general thoughts on Birdman?
So, really like Birdman. I really want to say good things about it because when I first watched this film, I really connected with it.
Hmm.
But when I watched it for this most recent time, I just felt more disconnected from it, and I can't really place why. But there's so much that I do love about this film. I love Michael Keaton in it. I love Emma Stone. I just like the idea of just the one take cut type of thing. But in this most recent viewing, I just felt like those weren't the things that I needed to focus on. Like they weren't things that I liked anymore.
Interesting. I
I
I
can't really
remember.
put it into can't put it into words why though. I just remember at the end of the film I'm just going like maybe I'm older, like maybe I'm just like in a different place in life where I just didn't like enjoy it as much as I used to.
And
I'm not
that's
sure.
completely fair. And I remember because what this film came out 11 years ago, I remember seeing this in theaters at the Princeton Garden Theater. And, you know, for me, the technical aspects of this film is still something to marvel at. I know technically it's not all one take, but the film makes you feel like it is. And it's really impressive and engrossing and just really makes you feel like you're caught in this theater with them in this really uncomfortable, tension filled
Hmm.
experience of making this Broadway show. And I love the music. Like that guy just going to town on his drums throughout the whole entire thing just gives it some personality. And also love when they
Yeah.
randomly show him playing his drums at different parts throughout the film. And like Emmanuel Lubezki is an incredible cinematographer and really shoots the heck out of this film. And there's so many uncomfortable close-ups that really put you in there with the characters. And obviously there's some creative things like the special effects and that whole wild sequence where he's going like full Birdman going and just like
Mhm.
explosions everywhere. There from a technical standpoint, I think there's a lot of things to appreciate that they were able to accomplish with this film for sure.
Absolutely. That's one thing that I will agree with this film is that it's so technically well done, and I can appreciate that. Even though in this time viewing I was like a little iffy about it, that's still the one thing that I'm like, okay, this part of the movie still holds up very well.
Absolutely. And you could tell this is something that it has this meta contextual aspect of the fact that Michael Keaton's going through this kind of idea where it's like, hey, this was a man who was Batman. And then at this point in his career, like he hadn't acted a ton. There's a long stretch there where I don't remember seeing him in movies. I think he actually took time off to be with his family. Um, Purposeful or not. And I remember like The Other Guys was the first movie where I remember him popping up again.
Yeah.
And
I
then
remember I said the same thing when the other guys came out. I was like, I haven't seen Keaton in a long time.
yeah. And then here I love the commitment to the character. I can feel the connection that he has with this character. And Michael Keaton has that little bit of like darkness in him, and you
Hmm.
can feel it. And he's just having so much fun doing like the Batman voice for
Yeah.
Birdman. And I think his performance, there's a lot of emotion, and I think he's drawing upon a lot from his own experiences for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And then this has a lot of really talented people in it. Like, I think this was one of the first films where I really noticed Emma Stone as somebody who's like
Hmm.
not just in like fun movies or like popcorny kind of movies. And her presence in this film, like, is her dynamic with Edward Norton the most interesting part of this film to me? No, but I think it adds some extra layers to their presence in this film. I think Edward Norton, he's a fantastic actor, and his character is such a piece of work for sure. And like, to the point where it's just like I wanted to jump through the screen and punch him like Michael Keaton did.
I wonder if that's if how much of his character is like based on like what Hollywood and audiences perceive him to be as like because he's notoriously known for being an asshole to work with on set. So I
Yeah.
wonder if that's got something to do with like maybe he's channeling a little bit of himself into this character.
Mhm. I feel like he has to be, and
Yeah.
good for him for being willing to do something like that. And even like Zach Galifianakis, I think is uh I enjoy his presence in this film. Like, you know who's out there trying to cast his next film? Martin Scorsese. And it's like just like the little things. And I feel like Andrea Riseborough and Naomi Watts deserve a lot of credit here because like they're not
Yeah.
the showiest performances, but I love their presence in this film. And Naomi Watts is really growing on me in terms of like she's not the kind of flashy actor that like gets the attention. So
Hmm.
I think it takes a lot of watching her to really appreciate her. And like I feel like there's a little bit of her in this role too, where she's like she's been around for like the same length of time as like an Amy Adams and actors like that, and she has not gotten the kind of attention that her peers have gotten. And I think what she brings something special to this film, and I appreciated it.
Hmm. Yeah, and I was just gonna say, like, I think this is the very first film that I have seen that has Andrea Riseborough in it, or at least to my knowledge, because I had never heard of her before this movie.
So I think technically I saw her in Oblivion first, that Tom Cruise sci-fi movie.
Yeah,
But
I didn't see that until years later.
yeah, I did not realize. I don't think I conceptualized like this was Andrea Riseborough when I saw this movie because I didn't know who she was.
Hmm.
And then I think I was watching it this time. I'm like looking at her and I'm like, wait a minute. And it is
Right.
Andrew Riseborough, who is, an Oscar nominated actor at this point, and she's extremely talented. And I appreciate I appreciate her place in this film as this character because like it the characters in this film, it adds layers to Michael Keaton's whole situation because like you want to root for him, but there's also like some hanging not great threads in his life, especially how
Hmm.
he treats her. And that was like what he says to Naomi Watts in front of Andrew Riseborough and her reaction, like he's never said anything like that to me. And it's just like, damn,
Yeah.
that hurts. And I feel like some of this become has gotten a little too on the nose for me. Like I understand there's the conflict with the critic and stuff like that. I just feel like Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu is getting a little bit too like in himself and all in the nose with this, and
Hmm.
it's kind of like obnoxiously preachy at times with what it's trying to say. But I do appreciate like the magical realism and like the ambiguity of the ending. At least makes it interesting to chew on, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that was something that I really appreciated for years after I'd watched this film. But then but like, again, my taste changing a little bit. I watch this film now and I see the ending and I'm just kind of like, I'm not sure if I really buy it. Like I think it's just kind of like I don't know, maybe a little hokey, and maybe that's not the right word that I'm trying to think of. But yeah, I didn't appreciate it as much as I did back then. You know what I mean?
Did you find that did you find that the more grounded elements of the film still worked for you better in
Yeah,
terms of like
I
the
yeah
actual
I think
relationships
I
and stuff?
probably yeah, I think the things that I do like the most are probably the more grounded things. And when it gets into that like weirder territory, like the sequence where he's flying through the city and
Yeah.
he's got the Birdman flying behind him and all that stuff. That stuff is it's just a little like it doesn't play well with me anymore. But I actually really like the critic stuff. I think that would be an interesting angle to kind of spend more time on through the movie.
Yeah.
Again,
I
in
feel
hindsight.
yeah, I feel like it was just like, well, I got to get this in
Yeah.
and kind of slide that in. And I think it's interesting because a lot of the more magical realism, more ambiguous elements are much of like the bigger ideas that are going on in the
Hmm.
film in terms of like greater context. But then there's so much really rich human conflict and dynamics that I really appreciate about this film. And, you know,
Hmm.
it was interesting because I watching this again reinforced what I really appreciated about this film, and it sounds like you had a different experience. It's funny because I had a similar experience to the next movie we're talk about that you had in terms of I think I liked this a lot more the first time I watched it. But I guess before we transition, do you have any other thoughts that you wanted to throw out there, Jeff, about Birdman?
No, I do like the movie. I just don't know if it's going to be one of those that I come back to much more often after this because
Mhm.
of this experience that I just had with it. But I think it is still technically a good movie, and I think it still deserves the award nominations and you know the wins that it got.
Mhm.
Um, it just doesn't vibe with me anymore, and that's okay.
Well, and that's always the interesting thing of watching film over the course of your life. And some films might not work for you when you're younger and you grow into them, you age into
Hmm.
them with experience, and others, it's like, you know, this just doesn't this doesn't
Yeah,
vibe with me anymore. And that's
it,
perfectly fair.
and it reminds me of my myself growing up with like 500 Days of Summer, where when I first watched 500 Days of Summer when it released, I'm like, oh yeah, Tom is like such a sweetheart, he's such a good guy. But then as you grow older and you age with that movie, you realize that your whole worldview of that is completely wrong, and that Tom is kind of the bad guy in this whole thing.
Well, and that's an interesting film because the aging and experience, I think, makes the film better. And because
At
you understand
100%, 100%.
and this one you just might not appreciate some of the things
Yeah.
that AGI is going for as much. Now, let's get lost in the wilderness with a little bit of the Revenant here. So, we have a frontiersman on a fur trading expedition in the 1820s, fights for survival after being mauled by a bear and left for dead by members of his own hunting team. So this is starring Leonardo DiCaprio and won Leo his Oscar. Finally got it. And Tom Hardy was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. You have Will Poulter and Donald Gleason in here as well. But Jeff, what were your general thoughts on The Revenant?
So I had the exact opposite experience with
Interesting.
this film. So when I first watched this film, again, technically great, very well done, but it didn't vibe with me that much at the time.
Mm,
But when I watched it this time, because I had not watched it since the first time I watched it, like when it was in the theater. And so watching it again now, I'm like, oh, this is pretty great.
mm,
I love like it just you hear so many stories about this particular movie and the what Leo went through and what the crew went through and what the cast
yeah.
went through, and then you see it actually like coming together on screen. You see all these long takes and the cold, harsh temperatures and environment and everything. It just blows your mind a little bit, and that's what it did with me. Is like I just appreciated this film so much more than I did before.
I guess I'll rip the band-aid off to what worked less for me this time is I think it's two things. One, the runtime. I
Oh,
felt like
I was good, just about to say that.
I felt the runtime a lot this time watching it.
Oh
Like I
yeah,
feel like in a theater, you're just being completely engrossed in it. But like watching this for a second time, I'm like, they could have leaned this down a bit. Because this is a almost a 2 hour and 40-minute movie.
yeah.
And so it's not just the runtime. I think some of the content of the film gets a little repetitive for me. Because it's
Hmm.
like I felt this a bit watching it the first time too, but I'm just like, how many more horrible things can they possibly do to Hugh Glass here along this journey? And it kind of was a
Hmm.
bit exhausting. Like, I feel like you probably could have found, like, even if it was like 20 minutes to lean down just a little bit, maybe cut
There's
out.
definitely spots.
And that's more of what didn't work for me as much this time around because if you think about it from a technical standpoint, the all natural lighting that they did for this and some of the cinematography with Emmanuel Lubezki is just absolutely incredible. And
Hmm.
there's a moment in like the woods and they have torches, and that is just such a striking shot. And then that whole entire raid at the beginning is
Hmm.
intense, brutal, and you can't escape it because you're in it with the camera and how it's moving and how we're navigating through it. Like Inarritu directed the hell out of this movie.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
And
there's I really love the natural lighting and the way it was
mhm,
shot and everything. Like it's one of my favorite parts about this film from this year, especially because it was around so many other movies from this year that like when I look back at the best picture nominees from this year, I'm like I couldn't I there's no way I could pick the best one because it was there was every single movie was just a like for lack of a better word a banger.
yeah, I I'm not going to get into my diatribe about Fury Road and the Oscars it should have won. Because like to be fair, it won like 6 Oscars. So it did pretty darn well for itself. But
Yeah.
like that was the big thing. It was the technical battle between this and Fury Road and even throwing
Hmm.
in Force Awakens came out around the same time. So even some of the technical aspects with that film too. But like this
Hmm.
is some incredible filmmaking between Inuritu and Lebeski just bringing this to life. And then the
Hmm.
brutality of this. Because, like, that sequence with the bear, it's brutal. It's
I know. I
visceral.
forgot how brutal it was.
It's so intense. And then the fight, the conflict that we've built up to between Hugh Glass and John Fitzgerald was brutal and visceral and so intense. And that's something that really stood out to me still this second time watching this film.
Hmm. Yeah, and I I honestly forgot how it ended when
Mhm.
before I watched it again, and then I watched it again because I thought he died like for real at the end, but I'm not sure if that's if that's actually what happened. Like it's kind of I mean to me it's kind of open ended. Like I feel like he sees like his wife or something,
Mhm.
and to me it kind of seems like he could have died at the end, but then I don't know. I don't feel like he was injured enough where he could have died. I don't know.
It's well, he certainly went through plenty over the course of
Yeah.
this journey. And that's the thing too, because like Leonardo DiCaprio won this based off of physicality. Like
Hmm.
this isn't Hugh Glass is not a particularly interesting character. It's not like he has this profound, interesting, or great dialogue. It's Leo physically dove headlong into
Hmm.
this film. And like, would I have given him the Oscar for this movie? Probably not. I'm still a huge fan of Michael Fassbender in Steve Jobs. And also, like, I
Yeah,
really loved Matt Damon in The Martian that year too. So like those are a couple of like really good performances that like I probably like more than this one. But like you can't argue that Leo doesn't fully commit to what he has to do for this character.
yeah, I agree. I think it's well deserved, but I think in terms of just the the acting side of it, like
Yeah.
I think it should have been like Fassbender because he like that because when he's playing with Sorkin's dialogue, it's electric. It's
Mm,
just so good. Anybody who's doing Sorkin's script needs to win the Oscar for that because it's just so good.
yeah. I what's interesting is I think the best performance in this film and the most interesting character in this film is Tom Hardy as John Fitzgerald. And
Yeah, I can see that.
he is a sick human being
Hmm.
that has what makes him more dangerous is the fact that he has real reasons why he does not like Native American people, on top of
Hmm.
the not great reasons why he's, racist. But the thing is, like, that just the look of him with his like partially scalped head
Hmm.
and just the intensity of Tom Hardy. Like, Tom Hardy brings it to anything. And it's so disappointing because like I feel like 2015 was the last time that he really like between Mad Max and this. Since then, it's just so much damn venom, so much venom, and I'm enjoying him in Mobland. That's a new
Hmm.
show on. I want to see him do more roles that aren't just him being like Venom. And it was refreshing rewatching this movie and seeing just how great of a performance he puts in here. He deserved that Best Supporting Actor nomination. Who
Sure.
won Best Supporting Actor that year?
I don't remember. Here, I can Google it real
I'm
quick.
trying to remember all of the movies that came out that year, and there's so many great movies, but he I feel like he would have deserved the recognition. Was it
Was that
Bridge of Spies? Was it Mark Rylance?
no? It was yeah. It was Mark Rylance.
Yeah, Bridge of Spies.
I was
I like Mark
I was making
Rylance
sure
in
that was the
this.
right year.
Yeah, this was the Stallone year where honestly, I
Hmm.
really wish Sylvester Stallone won for Creed. Damn, this was a really good Oscars. Like in hindsight, now I'm like really
Yeah.
thinking about it. Yeah, the 2015 movies were that was pretty legit. Damn.
Well, like I said, like I mean, every Best Picture nom was like the best. It was Spotlight, The Big Short, Bridge of Spies, Brooklyn, Mad Max, The Martian, The Revenant, and The Room.
I love I love Brooklyn so much. That movie is so moving. Saoirse Ronan. It just and
Hmm.
this film is so interesting because we don't get a lot of really big westerns anymore. And
No.
this is brutal. And this is such an unexpected experience of a western in this way, but like Lebeski and Inuyuichi do such a great job of making this feel so unique and
Hmm.
different and engrossing for sure. I beside like if they could have shaved off some of this runtime, I feel like I would have had a easier time digesting all of this, but still this is an incredible cinematic feat. And
Absolutely.
like Inuritu comes off pretty pretentious with a lot of things, but like you can't argue that he is an extremely talented director for sure.
No, I will always check out the things that he does. Um, this one, I agree with you. I think it needs just like 20-30 minutes shaved off its runtime, and I think there's plenty of opportunities in this because I was watching this film just from like a film editor's point of view because that's what I do on an everyday basis, and I'm just like,
Mhm.
yeah, there's definitely like 30 minutes that you can shave off here because there's just there's just stuff where he's just walking around, or there's things where he's just like he's curled up somewhere, or he's or just these large spanning shots. I'm like, you could cut some of this shit out.
Which is so wild. His only film after this was Bardo.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
That's wild to me.
Uh-huh.
But, you know, he had back-to-back banger years for himself. So, like, you've taken
Hmm.
some time away from doing this. But I guess, Jeff, do you have any other thoughts that you wanted to add in on The Revenant?
No, no, I think this is going to be another one like where I just kind of don't watch it for a while. Like I give it another like 5 6 years, and then maybe I'll come back to it again. It's not one of those movies I can like pop in every year and be like, yeah, it's so good. I go, it's not like it's to me, it's not the Royal Tenenbaums. That's a movie I can watch every year and I just love it. But this is not
Yeah, this is not a fun time.
that.
We're here for a brutal time. Quick little shout out to Donald Gleason and Will Poulter. Seeing them pop up in this film
Yeah,
too. Um,
I forgot
also
Will
to
Poulter was in this.
yeah, especially Will Poulter and his eyebrows. My God, he's grown into his eyebrows a bit because like when he was younger, they were aggressive,
Hmm.
aggressive eyebrows. But and the Oscar for best supporting animal goes to the bear, um, for this one. But Jeff, thank you as always for coming on and chatting movies with me.
Yeah, man, no problem. Anytime.
And thank all of you for listening. So just a little bit of sneak peek next week, since it is a five Thursday month, my buddy Adam, who will be my now new fifth Thursday person anytime a month has 5 Thursdays in it, will be coming on and talking about Scott Pilgrim versus the World and Wreck-It Ralph. Got a little bit of interesting video game influence movies coming your way. And next month, Jeff and I are going to talk about Friends with Kids and Knocked Up, two movies about unexpected ways that people wind up having kids with each other. So that'll be an interesting discussion. Very different than this one. But make sure to like, comment, and share on this episode. What's your go-to Iñárritu film? Is it some of his earlier Mexican films, or are you digging Birdman or The Revenant or even Bardo? And make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. The SPDM Crew Podcasting Network is ever expanding. So many podcasts, I can't keep up. And if you're interested in joining the crew with your own show or as a guest, please make sure to reach out to our website. But if you like our logo as well, make sure to reach out to High Flyer Creative for all your digital marketing needs. But most importantly, thank you as always for tuning in and supporting the Wasteland Retrospective here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network.